folks, Brian Hollock from North Point Training Center. We're back again. This time we're going to talk about gun selection. Now, a lot of you guys are getting into the concealed carry lifestyle. You go out, you get your license, take your concealed carry class, and decide you want to get yourself perhaps maybe a compact style gun. It's easy for concealed carry. What I'd like to do here is I'm not going to necessarily advocate a particular kind of gun, but a particular feature about certain guns that you may want to consider when you're buying. One feature that I like is if you're going to have a gun for concealed carry and for home defense, an advantage is if the home defense gun and the concealed carry gun operate the same way. And specifically, if the compact concealed carry gun can use the same magazines as your larger home defense gun. So let's take an example here. Here we have the M&P line, and this happens to be an M&P 40. The magazines for the Smith & Wesson M&P line will be interchangeable with the compact versions of the same gun. So here you have the compact version of the same gun. You can take the same magazine from the larger gun and insert it into the smaller gun. So here we have one commonality of function. So the guns operate exactly the same. All the buttons and dials are in the same place, but in addition, we can use the same magazines from the larger gun and the smaller gun. Now, obviously, the converse is not true. You can't take the smaller magazine and insert it into the larger gun because the grip isn't long enough, or short enough, excuse me, to accommodate the shorter magazine. But this comes into play for concealed carry purposes. When we're concealed carrying our guns, the way our magazines sit on our midline, the compact magazine doesn't afford us any additional advantages over the larger magazine. So here, for example, we have a Glock 21 magazine in a single pouch holder. So what happens is, as it sits on my belt line, the magazine starts from the belt and goes up. So if I took the smaller Glock 30 magazine, and they're both the same caliber magazine, it doesn't afford me any additional concealability. Frankly, the magazine could go all the way up here, and I'd still be able to conceal it just as easily. The issue for concealed carry is how it wears going down. And the way the magazine pouches work, they start at the belt line and go up. So when I'm carrying, one of the things that I can do is, if my home defense gun happens to be, say, for example, a Glock 17, then for my spare magazines, what I can do in my carry gun, like say this Glock 26, is take the larger magazine and have that for my spares. So for my mag pouch here, what I can do for my reloads is insert the larger magazine in the smaller gun. I lose no functionality. In fact, if anything, what happens is I gain a lot more rounds. So if I actually did run the gun dry, then what I would do is switch to the large magazine and I'm good to go. Now for carrying, what I would do is I'd still put the smaller magazine in because, of course, the butt is what ends up showing or printing when it's on my body right here. So the larger magazine doesn't afford me any advantages there. At that point, I might as well have the larger gun as well, because the larger gun is going to be a little bit more comfortable to hold because of the larger grip. But the bottom line here is, when you're selecting the gun, try to look for a compact gun that has a big brother that'll take the same magazines. Now, you have to be a little bit careful here. Check with your gunsmith. The Smith & Wesson M&P line, there's absolutely no problem taking the larger magazine and inserting it into the smaller gun. There are guns, however, where you may have to have a plastic sleeve go around here to prevent the magazine from going too high up when you're inserting it. Sometimes you can induce a jam that way. Specifically, a lot of 1911s might be prone to this issue. So you want to make sure with your gunsmith that this is going to be okay. Here's another example. Here we have the Glock 21 and the Glock 30. Now, as you can see, they're both 45 ACP guns, and they both have all of their levers in the same spot, but the Glock 30 is considerably smaller. When I carry the Glock 30, though, there is no reason that I can't carry the full-size Glock 21 magazine with me in my pouch. So if the gun happens to run dry and I switch over to the 21 magazine, I have additional rounds, and it's actually even more comfortable to hold and shoot at the same time. There's an additional advantage to picking your guns this way. Since our home defense gun, we don't really care about the size, you might as well get a full-size gun for home defense. Remember, we're probably not going to have a spare magazine on us if we're grabbing this in the middle of the night. So the more rounds we've got, the better. So having the full-size gun makes a lot of sense for the home defense gun, and then having the compact gun, like say this Glock 19, for carry works out just fine. And if we ever had to, we could take the full-size magazine and insert it. And so here, the Glock 17, Glock 19, Glock 26, they will all take the larger cousin's magazine. The final reason that this actually works out really well is some of you guys have not only gone into the concealed carry lifestyle, you've taken it to the next level, which is to carry a backup gun. And a backup gun is an excellent, excellent idea. If something's going to fail on your gun, or maybe if you're injured or bound up on your strong side and you have to access a separate weapon, it's a good idea to have a backup gun. It might save your life. But the problem with the backup gun is we may not carry spare ammunition for the backup gun. We're already now saddled with multiple devices here on our belt line, and we're not Batman after all, and there's only so much kit we can put here. If we can keep the primary gun and the backup gun having the same magazines and the same functionality, then what's going to happen is if we had to reload with the backup gun, we could use the full-size magazine. Now, there's a little bit of practicality here. We may not get away with having the double mag pouch that a lot of us are used to. We're already taking up a lot of real estate here with the backup gun, and you may have to go to a single mag pouch. But if you stop and think about it for a second, here with the Glock 30, I have 10 plus 1, and here with the Glock 21, I have 13 plus 1, and then if I carry the spare magazine of 13 rounds, here on my belt line, I have ample ammunition, and giving up that extra magazine is probably a worthy trade-off to have the backup gun live and ready to go. One thing you ought to consider, though, if you are going to have a backup gun that way, you might consider having or carrying your spare magazines in a spot where it's accessible from either hand. So it's not a bad idea. If you have it way back in the back quadrant, you may not be able to get to it with either hand, and you're kind of defeating the purpose of having the backup gun. Let's take a look at some drills that will show you how to practice this on the range, and you should be able to do this on just about any range. All you're going to need is the primary gun, that's the full size, the compact backup gun, that's the small one, and preferably, if you have, swap out the primary gun for a blue gun. These are easy to find. Just Google blue gun and your model number of firearm, and it's very likely they make plastic dummy guns in the exact same shape as your primary gun. And what you can do is you can practice transitioning from the primary gun to the backup gun and also performing a reload. Let's take a look at how that's going to look on the range.
Now, before you attempt any new skill, it's really important to emphasize safety. Since we're going to be using our weak hand, it tends to be less familiar than our strong hand, so make sure that you go very, very slow. You're not going to have the same kind of muzzle discipline or trigger control you will with your strong hand. Remember, we're going for familiarization, not for speed. So take your time and go slow with these drills. Now for the first drill, we're assuming something has gone wrong with the primary gun, and we're going to transition to the backup gun. There is nothing that's gone wrong with us, and so we're going to shoot the gun, the backup gun, two-handed. This is in a sense what we call mirror image, and it's not a bad idea to train yourself on how to shoot mirror image, because you never know when you may have an injury to your primary arm and you do have to go and start carrying mirror image. So we simply draw, release the primary gun, draw the backup, and with two hands take a good shot. Now with this drill, what's going to happen is we're assuming that the reason we're getting rid of our primary gun is because something's happened with our strong arm. And so when we drop the gun, we're also going to basically take the strong arm out of play. So you're going to be drawing your backup gun with your weak hand only and performing the shot weak hand only. Go slow. This is one of those times when we don't ever have enough practice with our weak hand, and safety is of paramount concern. So on this particular one, what we're going to do is we're going to draw the gun and drop it, take it out of play, and access our backup gun with our weak hand. Now for this next drill, this is going to be very similar to the first drill, except you're going to set your weak hand backup gun up so that it will run empty on the first shot. So the way you set this up is you're going to have an empty magazine and a round in the chamber of the backup gun. And when you draw the primary, you're going to release it, draw the backup, you're going to fire, mirror image, so using two hands, we're assuming we have two hands in play here, and then you're going to perform a reload using the backup gun. You're going to take some time to familiarize yourself here, because remember, your controls are all going to be on the wrong side for you, and it's probably a good idea to position the spare magazine in a spot that's accessible by the other hand. Now for this last drill, this is from a friend of mine that had to work Hurricane Katrina, and what he pointed out is there are times where you may not want to get rid of that primary gun. In his case, he was up to his knees in water, and if he lost the gun, he was going to lose the equipment. You may live in an area with a lot of snow, or you may just not want to give up a potentially usable gun to a bad guy. So you may need to transition to the backup gun while retaining retention and possession of the primary gun. So the way it looks is you're going to draw, attempt to fire, and then transition to the backup gun, shooting it weak hand only while retaining the primary gun in your hand. We hope you like these drills. If you want more information, check us out on Facebook or at our website, norpointrange.com.